For me, I think a huge motivator for me has always been that I never liked solo performance. I never enjoyed that. And I always did accompanying and collaborative work. I played for dance classes and choirs and musical theater. And when I started teaching, I realized, you've got to be pretty good at the piano to play with anybody else except your piano teacher.
You're listening to The Topcast, the original podcast for growth-minded instrumental music and voice teachers since 2015, with your host, Tim Topham. Our mission at Top Music is to empower instrumental music and voice teachers to find and nurture their innate creativity so that they can teach lessons that are innovative, integrated, and inspiring, and that will have a positive, lifelong impact on their students. Join us each week as we interview teachers and creators from around the world and unpack fun and exciting ideas to maximize your teaching and studio business success. G'day teachers, welcome back to the Topcast, the world's biggest and longest running podcast for music teachers. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you are going well whenever you are listening to this, wherever you are listening to this. Whether you teach piano or harp, recorder, organ, violin, whatever it is, you are in good company today. And we have a great example today of some pretty innovative scheduling that has had a significant impact on both one teacher's innate ability to impact the lives of more students and also her ability to increase her own income. Very, very cool. Let's jump in. So earlier this month, I told you that group teaching's best kept secret isn't actually the money, although that's really nice. It's actually the community. And today you're going to meet a teacher who proves both halves of that equation at once. This is a real world case study of overlapping, what we call in inverted commas, overlapping group lessons, a model where private, lab time and ensemble time all happen in one weekly visit. Now, Lynnette has actually been on this show a couple of times and she's actually reworked her model from the first time that she was on a number of years ago. So originally, she would have 90-minute sessions with students and she'd have 4 students during that 90 minutes. And as you'll hear in today's episode, she's actually now moved to a different model, which is actually more powerful, more effective, and it's certainly had an impact on her income. But the part I love most actually about this isn't the income. It's why her students stay around for years, and you're going to hear that in her own words. Now, I recorded this conversation with her a little while back, so you'll hear a couple of references to past conferences, but the model and the thinking are every bit as relevant today. So my guest today is Lynnette Barney. She's from Tucson, Arizona, 30 plus years of teaching. She teaches many students across lots of different levels. She's a parent, she's just an amazing person, and we love catching up whenever I get over to the United States for a conference. Now, one thing that we have put together for you as a part of listening to this, if you would like a download of this case study with the timetables, examples, details of how she's calculated things, we actually have that available for you. So if you head to our show notes page for today's episode, topmusic.co/episode 471, you'll be able to download that case study. And you can either download it after listening to it or you can work through it as you're hearing what Lynnette is talking about. All right, over to Lynnette. Here we go. Lynnette Barney, welcome back to the show. It's so great to hang out with you again.
It is great to be here.
So look, you were last on the podcast, episode 35, March 2016. Can you believe it? We were talking about teaching outside the box. And back then, one of the biggest differences in your studio was the overlapping of lessons that you did. And you were scheduling students, I think, in 90-minute slots. So everyone attended a private lesson and then a lab time and an ensemble each week. So I'm really keen to know where you're at now. So, but actually, before we get there, you better let people know, where are you from? How many students are you teaching and those sorts of things at the moment?
Okay, so I grew up in Utah where they're drowning in snow right now. So I have lived in Tucson for 30 years because I don't like snow. So I'm in Tucson, Arizona, and I have about 100 students right now across my Music Together, which is an early childhood program, And my preschool piano, I call it mini musicians after Nicola's vibrant music teaching mini musicians curriculum, and then my regular piano curriculum. So I run about 100 students on average.
Fantastic. And it sounds like a lot, but you do group formats of some sort. So we've been talking lots about group on the podcast recently, early childhood groups, multi-age groups, single age groups, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned that you were doing these 90-minute slots. So how are things looking these days? What are you doing with your group teaching?
I'm doing just about the same thing with a couple of tweaks. One tweak is for my preschool class, my kinder class, and my first grade class. They're 45-minute just a group. So I don't do any overlapping or anything like that. And then
so that's for ages sort of 4 to 6.
First, like 4 through 6-ish, 4 through almost 7.
Okay. And that program you've developed?
I've borrowed from other people.
Yep.
So I wouldn't
bits and
say
pieces from here and there to put it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So for the younger kids, there's a lot of music together influence, the movement and singing and, very, what's the word? We use the piano, but we do so much away from the piano because they're only 4. And then in kindergarten and first grade, we do more. I use the Piano Safari Friends and Music Tree, Time to Begin, a lot of other resources I've just culled, but we still do a lot of singing and movement and games.
Yeah, more so the general musicianship, I guess we might call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
With increasing amounts of piano as they get older.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense because there's not a lot of fine motor skills in the hand of a 4-year-old, let's be honest. And in fact, we don't want to preemptively force them to try and use their hands at a keyboard because you can really bring in some really bad habits and things like that. So I think those gross motor skills, that's so important. And it's what I hear all the early programs are doing. So you've got these 45-minute classes once a week for ages 4, 5, 6 approximately. And then what happens?
And then usually when they're around second grade, so 7-ish, then they start doing my regular piano program. And what I'm doing with that now is I'm actually overlapping with 6 instead of 4. So when I talked to you before, it was 90 minutes. So 2 students would come for 30 minutes. One would have a 30-minute private lesson and a 30-minute, and the other was doing a 30-minute lab, and then they'd swap.
Okay.
Is that right?
Wait, that's taking us up to an hour?
No, that's, yeah. And then the other 2 would come and we do the 30-minute ensemble class with all 4.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
So that was 90 minutes for one set of students. Then the first 2 would leave and the second 2 would do their private lesson and their lab.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
And so that's what I was doing. But now what I'm doing is I'm doing 75 minutes and it's an overlap with 6. So 3 students come for 45 minutes and they do a 15-minute private lesson and 2 15-minute labs. And then 3 more come and then we do the 30-minute ensemble class. And then the first 3 leave and the second 3 stay. So basically what's changed is they have a shorter private lesson.
Okay.
Instead of the longer private lesson. And it allows for a larger number to overlap. So I'm able to do more of the ensemble work that I love.
Has that also enabled you to see more students? Like, is it financially a little better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's important, right?
Yes.
I really love this model, and I think it's great that you've iterated on it over the years. It's great to come back and actually say, "Oh, this is what I've changed and why." What sense did you get from the students about the change to the shorter lessons, or their parents? Like, did they have issues with it? Were they concerned, or was it like, "No, this is going well"?
I don't remember anybody having any issues with it. I changed it. Heavens, I don't even remember how long ago, quite a while ago. Most people were happy with it being slightly less time, honestly. An hour and a half for a young child is a really long So 75 minutes seems to be a good length. And so we do that really focused private lesson, and I'm really specific what we work on. And
that's just 15 minutes, right?
And it's just 15 minutes.
And a lot of teachers listening would go, oh, no, that's too short. What can I do? I mean, I'm still chatting about, where they went on the weekends in 15 minutes.
Right.
How do you do that?
Well, you have to be really, really focused. Like the kids know that they come to the piano and they open their books and they turn on the metronome and they do their technique, and they just do that. The social part of the lesson is more in the ensemble class, not so much in the private lesson. So we don't spend a lot of time talking about school and all of that in the private lesson. We do their technique, scales, arpeggios, the piano safari, animals, depending on the student, what they're working on, and then their repertoire primarily. For sight reading, it's super important to me that my students be able to decode on their own most of their material. So when they're younger, they're doing a lot of rote stuff with the backup videos, like the piano safari stuff and things like that, materials I've made. And then once they're comfortable with reading skills and I put them in a reading method book, the idea is they should be able to figure out the songs on their own. And if they can't, I haven't done my job. So
they're able to go home and move forward in the book without you, and then you're checking up on how that's going. Let's improve the technique. What about the dynamics? Those sorts of things.
Yes. And then one thing I've done this year, because 15 minutes isn't enough time, it's just a fact. But then again, is there ever enough time? I mean, there's always way more to teach than we have time for. I started offering students the option of sending their sight reading music through Tonara. So they send videos or recordings that I would then listen to and pass off. So the theory was, I have one student who sends a recording every day. Wow, literally.
That's commitment.
And she flies through the method books. Okay, maybe every other day, but it's a ridiculous number of recordings. But so one of the things that I had to do a few months ago was I hired a teaching assistant because I just couldn't keep up with it. I was pushing kids to send me these materials outside of class time, but then I had to listen to them outside of class time. And so I hired one of my high school girls who's been with me for years and is very skilled and articulate to be my assistant, specifically to grade the theory books and respond to the sight reading videos. So I love that.
Nice.
And the kids are like, how are things going with Ella, guys? And one of my students said, no offense, Mrs. Barney, but she responds faster than you do.
Perfect. And she's getting a little bit of income for something that she enjoys.
Yes.
She's learning it. She'll become a better musician for teaching it.
Yes.
The students
and she's good.
She's
I think she's pickier than I am.
I reckon that's fabulous.
So those are my big changes, are that I've kind of compressed the teaching blocks a little bit, both because I noticed the kids were getting tired with 90 minutes and to also maximize the potential for the income. And then because of that, I need help. So I've hired assistants. I have a parent helper that comes in once a week and does my birthday board. And I don't know, she does everything. I couldn't even tell you what she does because it's all these little random things I hate to do. I have a librarian who manages my library. It's a former student that I hired. And she comes about once a month for about 4 hours and adds new music to the library, files music. She's great. They're all very independent because I value that in my employees. So I actually have employees. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah. So just on the student, so for one student, their experience is 15 minutes one-on-one, 30 minutes total lab time. And lab time, for those who are unsure, what's this lab time? That's when a student is working independently using an iPad normally, doing more theoretical musicianship things. Is that right?
Yes, it depends. Some weeks we do music history. So I really like, I think it's Jenny Boster, the Playful Piano. She has some music history materials that my students enjoy that are coloring pages and thought pages. We do those about once a month. They do sight reading, Piano Maestro as an app. They do their guide notes, naming notes through Note Rush and Note Quest and those things. They do written theory book a couple times a month. They do Tonic Tutor. I've subscribed to that now. And they use, because it has stuff for my advanced kids, it keeps them on their toes. It's hard to keep them on their toes. They do composition today this week in class. They're taking an improvisation that we're doing at Forest Kinney improvisation, and they're notating a little piece of it. So the younger kids are copying a sample that I made, and the older kids are creating their own composition using the building blocks of that improvisation and notating it. So it really depends.
It's really varied.
Yeah.
And so on a Sunday or whatever it is, do you write out a sheet and they've got it on a table, or do they go online to a Google Doc and it's like, check these things off as you go? How do they know what to do? Because you're too busy. Like you can't spare a second to help them, really, can you?
No. Generally speaking, so the way I lesson plan is I lesson plan for my music together. I lesson plan one plan for my mini musicians, and I lesson plan one plan for everybody else. So all the ages and stages and levels from 7 through high school get the same lesson plan, but it's tweaked, right? So my expectations are different, or the resources are different. But sometimes it varies from week to week. Sometimes I'll write it on a whiteboard. Sometimes I'll print up instructions. Sometimes it's something they've done so many times they know what to do, and I just hand it to them. Sometimes I put it in Tonara and they log into Tonara, particularly if it's a link I want them to go to. Then I'll put it in Tonara in their Tonara group. So it shows up for everybody in the group, and then they'll just click on it and go do it. It depends on what we're doing. And sometimes they do things together. Sometimes they play games together. And so their lab is actually with somebody else. Like they might sight read a duet together. Or right. They might
because there's now you've got 3, there's always 2 doing a lab at the same time.
Yes.
Which is an advantage because you've got a little mini ensemble possible. Yeah, that's cool. I was going to say, you've also trained them to be independent in this process too. Like they have to take some ownership and responsibility for the learning that's occurring during that time, and showing a bit of leadership. If there's 2 of them, one of them has to go, okay, let's start now playing together, or whatever they're doing, which is great.
And sometimes it goes better than others. Sometimes I'm like, guys, what are you doing back there? Because I'll be up here in this teaching space teaching, and they're in the back, and I'm like, what is going? This is not what it's supposed to sound like. Oh, sorry, Miss Barney.
That's fantastic. Okay, so I think we've understood that. So 15-minute lesson, 30 minutes of lab time total with somebody else, and then all 6 of them for 30 minutes ensemble, because there'll be another 3 coming and they cross over for that 30 minutes in the middle. And at that stage, you have keyboards for all of them, or do they play it? I can see 2 grand pianos behind you. Do they all squish on the 2 grands?
So I have my 2 grands here, and then just to the left, there's an upright as well, acoustic upright. And those are the 3 instruments we principally use. I also have a clavinova over to my right, which we use not as much as we should. And then back in the lab room, I have 4 digitals. So depending on what we're doing, usually we're here at the grands and at the 3 acoustics, or we're in the space behind me, which is just a big empty space. It just depends on what we're doing. Or if we're using the digitals, like because we're doing like a keyboard orchestra type thing where we need the sounds, we'll go back in the back.
Yeah, and that's always fun, isn't it? Because somebody can be a bass or a violin or a trumpet and contribute to the ensemble. Do you use a particular curriculum or resource for your ensembles? Or again, do you just pull bits and pieces from everywhere?
I just pull from everywhere. I use a lot of Forrest Kenny. He's my hero and my mentor.
So good. Yeah.
And I miss him.
Yeah.
So I use a lot of his pattern play, create first, puzzle play, that kind of stuff. I use a lot of game resources. So just lots, like the Vibrant Music Teachers and the Chose 3 Cranky Women and the Keys to Imagination. I mean, I've got it all. Kind of ridiculous. One of the other big changes that's happened since I talked to you last is I have what I call my anime. And this has a little story behind it. My little sister in Utah is a harp teacher, and one of her best friends from her harp program is anime. And they had sister studios in Utah for years, and they lesson planned together, and they did studio policies together. And I always wanted an anime of my own, somebody to bounce ideas off of. And I mean, I have so many great colleagues, right? But nobody really teaches like me. And a few years ago in Spokane, actually, I ran into a friend, an old friend that I hadn't seen for a while, and she's become my anime. We aren't in the same community. She's in Indianapolis and I'm here in Tucson, but she teaches using my lesson structure. I think she's modified it a little. I think she does more like a 20-20-20 thing with 4 kids, because she has mostly beginners and she's establishing her studio because she moved recently. But we lesson plan twice a week.
Oh, wow.
We get together
and
twice
you can
a
share
week.
Resources as well.
Yes. And we do this. We do Zoom twice a week. On Friday mornings, we recap the week and we plan for the next week. And on Monday mornings, we work on projects. And then every summer we get together and we do a huge project. Like I'm going to Indianapolis this year because then we'll go together to NCKP. And last summer we worked on a big theory project and picked the theory books we were going to have the kids use and got them all set up in Tonara. And I'd have to say that has been, I mean, it's just incredible because I have accountability.
Yes. Huge.
Somebody else besides my own students. I know that I'm not going to fly by the seat of my pants. We're going to have a plan because we do it together. And I think
this is coming from someone who's, I mean, you've been teaching for a lot of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
30 years.
It just goes to show, you don't, just because you've been teaching for a lot of time doesn't mean you should stop planning and trying new things and connecting with other people. This is fabulous. When you first said anime, I was was picturing Japanese anime cartoons.
Yes.
So I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, her name is Anna May. And so that's what I call her. I'll tell my sisters, I'm meeting with my Anna May this morning. They're like, doesn't she have a name? Yes.
Yeah, what is her name?
It's Valerie Merrill.
Valerie Merrill. Sounds familiar. I reckon that's a familiar name to me, actually.
We had met in Tucson. She lived in Tucson. Her husband was going to graduate school at the U of A, and she and I met at a Tucson Music Teachers Association event. And I liked her so much, but she moved promptly. They moved far away. So that has been one of the best parts about teaching the last 2 years.
That's just fantastic. And it
really is.
Again goes to show the power of a community of people and meeting people and going to conferences and becoming members and joining MTAs. And this is just so important for our very isolated lives. So
I feel like being patient and flexible because I have so many great colleagues and friends, and I appreciate all of them for all of the different ways that we interact. And there's something really special when you find that teacher that really thinks like you, like where we can literally lesson plan together. And
for it to be fun. I mean, who says lesson planning is fun? But you're enjoying it. That's crucial.
Yes. And it does make it fun. I've lesson planned more in the last 2 years than I ever have because I have someone to do it with. But it's taken a long time to find that right fit, even though I have so many fabulous music teaching colleagues. So I think sometimes being patient and really talking to people and seeing where you click I can think of other colleagues that I have that with somebody that they really click with. And they have a synergy way that they work together that's really cool.
So there's been lots of more talk online about group teaching in the last 6 months than for the few years before that. And then before that, there was a lot more talk. It seems to come in waves, but there's a bit of a wave happening at the moment. I wondered whether you noticed anything at Reno, at the MTNA, about group teaching. Was there much discussion about that? Because it seems quite popular at the moment, which is why we're doing a focus on it.
It's funny because I hadn't really noticed that trend, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking what emails I tend to get and such. And yes, I think there have been some people that have popped up and are kind of pushing some trends right now, which I think is great. Reno, I don't know that I noticed a whole lot more than usual. The RMM track always has some group teaching stuff. And they had Dorla, or I don't remember how to say her last name. She did some, and I think Leela Viss did some on group teaching. And then they spotlighted studios that do group teaching. And I was one of those. So I would say the RMM track did, but I think they always do.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. Yeah.
And other than that, no, I didn't notice a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Because I guess given that I've been interviewing people and talking about it the podcast started in 2015. So at least 7 years. And we've had whole group teaching months before. And that's probably when you were last on the show, actually. What I guess I've learned is that there is a million ways of running groups. And I think if you speak to a standard, a regular one-on-one teacher and say, how about teaching group? They will instantly picture a room of 6 to 8 kids they have to control and lesson plan for at once. And I guess I just want to remind people that Lynnette is a fantastic case in point of just how you can be flexible and just the different ways you can do this with small and big groups and headphones versus ensembles and 30-30-30 or 15-15-15, which you do, crossovers, pairs, buddies, lab times, multi-level, single age, running groups on only a couple of times a term and group camps. And there are so many different opportunities. But I guess my question for you is, you've done this for many years now. What have you learned over the years about group teaching that has allowed you to, or made you want to settle on this as the way to go?
On group teaching in general, or the way I teach?
No, group teaching in general, just, more kids than one at a time, either from business or perspective of the student or the parent or yourself.
For me, I think a huge motivator for me has always been that I never liked solo performance. Like I never enjoyed that. And I always did accompanying and collaborative work. I played for dance classes and choirs and musical theater. And when I started teaching, I realized, you've got to be pretty good at the piano to play with anybody else except your piano teacher. And so I wanted to give my students the opportunity to make music together because that was where I have always found my greatest joy as a musician. To me, the magic of music happens when you sing with someone else, when you play the piano with someone else, when you make music with someone else. And that's always been a huge driving motivator for me. And so that has been a huge part of why I do this. In addition to that, about 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to purchase a property adjacent to my home where I'm able to teach it's a home.
That's right. I remember that. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so my commute to work is like 178 steps and I love it. And so that gave me the opportunity to expand. I was already doing my overlapping groups. So I guess I've been doing the overlapping groups at least 10 years because I was already doing them when I came into this space. But it enabled me to teach more professionally. I didn't have to tell my kids to be quiet and open a can of tuna. And so I also could see in my personal life that my income was becoming less supplemental and more, this is how I'm supporting my family. And so I wanted to be able to support my family solely through teaching. And mathematically speaking, with a large family, like I have 9 children, that wasn't going to happen teaching 30-minute private lessons. It just wasn't. So there was a financial motivation and the idea that I wanted my students to have community. I feel like I have really high retention rates because kids don't want to let their friends down. They have their community and they have a sense of belonging. I have families that have been in my studio for decades, literally large families, where there's a big span between the kids' ages. And I have really quite good retention. And I think in large part, it's the community sense. So those are my big whys.
I got a particular quote I've written down. We're going to include this in our show notes somewhere because it was just beautiful. I don't know if you remember, you said, the magic of music happens when you make music with someone else. So good. Warms my heart. And I've written about this before because when I look back on all the memories I have of music learning as a child, I do have glimpses of the lessons that I had one-on-one, but my main memories are when I was involved in the school musical. I was in an orchestra. I was accompanying singers. I was repetiteur for pit orchestras. Every single main memory was making music with other people. And I've talked about how important that is. And group is one way of achieving that. And it was great that you mentioned retention as well. Obviously, income, retention, all super critical factors for people running businesses.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
I love it for me because, if you're having one of those lessons where you're like, really, we're having a Groundhog Day lesson here.
Yeah.
And I try to avoid those and that mindset. Like the kids haven't practiced again. Okay, that's okay. We're just learning together here. But I like the energy that comes, and I know this isn't for everybody, but I like the energy that comes from all the moving pieces. From a student coming in and saying, guys, I beat my score. I beat my high score on my guide notes. And it's okay that they interrupted because then we can all rejoice together. And, another student just sharing, there's magic in that. And yes, it's a high energy. I'm actually trying to incorporate more mindfulness into the ensemble class because sometimes I think we're a little too high energy, but I love it. To me, it's fun. And I enjoy the energy that happens in all the moving pieces and the different parts and teaching, 20 kids a day, having the chance to interact with all of them. To me, it's fun.
Yeah. It'll keep you on your toes as well. You're not going to be sitting there falling asleep while you're trying to do it. No. And for the parents, that's the benefit to me. And I feel like the benefit to the students, they get more time in the studio. I have noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, a drop in how much my students practice overall. It's been a little discouraging. I get the sense it's kind of a COVID thing. I've talked to some of my piano moms about it. It just seems like overall in my studio, the level of at-home practice has dropped. I think that's not just your studio.
Right. And so I think it's especially valuable that they're here learning, working for 75 minutes a week. And I always tell parents that you're getting a 75-minute lesson for approximately the same as you would get a 30 or 45-minute lesson somewhere else. The students are learning the whole time. So that's the benefit to the parents, I think.
Now, I want to wrap things up with a couple of quick questions because you are right across ideas and you are super creative and you got me into these things. Oh, is it even going to work? That's not going to work.
You have to sing or hum.
That's right. I've even forgotten. That's right. The fabulous kazoo, which is so much fun. And I remember you were presenting. Where were you presenting? I can picture it.
It would have
been MTNA.
It would have been either San Antonio or no, I wasn't presenting at San Antonio.
No,
it would have been in Orlando. You were in Orlando, right?
That was what it would have been. Yeah.
It was in Orlando.
So you got me into kazoos. Fabulous thing. Have you got just a couple of cool resources, games or ideas that you could just share with teachers quickly that they should check out?
No, I just borrow and steal all the time. The funnest thing we're doing as a studio this year is we're building a Lego piano. You know, the big Lego piano?
Yeah.
So I bought one of those in the fall, and there are certain things related to sight reading and technique and little mini challenges where the kids add Legos to the piano. So that's been really
that's the prize, effectively.
Yes. Whenever I do an incentive program, I like it to have 3 parts. I like it to have a little part that pushes the kids individually with a tiny bit of competition. I like there to be a collaborative project. And I like, there's another part, but I forgot what it is. Anyway, the Lego piano is the collaborative project.
Collaborative part, right. Love it.
Because anytime we do that, the kids just love it. So that's our collaborative project. So that's been fun this year. Things I've been poaching from other people this year, because that's mostly what I do. I've been using the kazoos with Vibrant Music Teaching has a resource called Solfa Railroad. And we kick off our ensemble lessons a couple times a month with that. And with that, we can do key signatures, rhythm, solfege, singing. So I have been using that resource. This summer, I'm going to do the silent movie celebration that Heather Smith debuted in Reno. I've done something similar to that before, but I'm using her. Her idea is great. So I can't really tell you anything radically creative I'm doing. I'm just stealing from other, not stealing, I pay. But
I know what you mean. But
using other people's great ideas, investing in them and using them.
Yeah. Well, 2 things for listeners to pick up from that. One is you know about the ideas because you're getting out there and going to conferences and getting online and you're in groups and things like that. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that's the joy of, I think, piano in particular as an instrument. We are overwhelmed more than any other instrument with resources and music. More than any other resource, any other instrument, hands down. I have so many people who are like, I'm a stupid trumpet teacher or whatever. Is there a membership for me? And where's my games club? And we are so lucky. So I think it's great. Make use of all those things, guys. We've got so many people creating amazing things. So get out there and try it out.
It's very true. The list never ends.
Yeah, that's right. There's almost too much, which could also be, that's been my downfall before. I've spoken about it, trying to do too much, too much new stuff. It's that can be a bad thing as well. Anyway,
I have been guilty of that myself.
Yeah. I want to wrap things up. Just a couple of tips, I guess. Would you have for teachers who have been listening to a number of these interviews that we've had and reading the blog posts, all these different types of groups? Have you got any sort of tips for them?
Well, I would say my top 3 tips would be to explore and find the people you resonate with. Find your community in the group teaching, whatever the style is, talk to people. I was really impressed, Tim, at Reno in the RMM track when they did the studio spotlights, that a lot of the people that came and talked to me were young college students. And I loved that because they're looking at what they can bring to the profession, I think, with a really fresh set of eyes, right?
So there's quite a lot of college-age students there, you found?
There were. And
That's
there were
fantastic.
at the RMM track, and they were asking, they talked to us. They wanted to know what we were doing. And I love that. So that would be my first one is just talk to people, get to know people, read, listen to these types of podcasts and find the people you resonate with. And then secondly, be flexible and willing to experiment and laugh.
And make
mistakes. So incredibly important because you're going to try ideas and they are going to flop. And you've got to be able to have a sense of humor about it.
And laugh at yourself. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yes. And laugh at the kids, not in a mean way, in a friendly way, laugh with them.
Yeah.
But I think the most important one is know your why and what your core ideas are. I think the more clear someone is on why they're doing it. Again, for me, the why is so that students can make music together. That's my why. And as long as I keep that why right in front of me, I don't tend to get as derailed by new ideas and other things because I know my why and I can stay focused on it. So I would say those would be my 3 big tips.
Fantastic. I don't want to add anything to that because I reckon that was a great way to finish things off. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, Lynnette, and sharing so much about what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And if people want to find out a little bit more about you and your studio and things, where's the best place to catch you?
Probably through my website, which you'll include that in the show notes.
Yeah. Look, tell people who are listening now, what's the address?
Okay. It's creativekeysmusic.com.
Fantastic. creativekeysmusic.com. We will put a link in the show notes for that. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you. This was wonderful.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's chat with Lynnette Barney and her innovative approach to scheduling, and the way that she builds community in her studio is just phenomenal. If you ever see Lynnette at a conference, go have a chat to her. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to help you out. The structure, this overlapping private lab ensemble in one weekly block, it really allows you to, I guess, keep a lot of the one-on-one that you love while giving kids this group experience without families having to, drive in twice. And as we know, and as we've been talking about this month, community drives retention. Kids don't want to let their friends down. They want to see their friends. As Lynnette says, this is the magic of music, but it's doubled, tripled, 10x'd when kids are together in a room. And yes, moving to this overlapping model doubled her effective hourly rate from around $80 to $160 an hour. That's not the point of group teaching, but it's what makes it sustainable enough to keep doing the work that you love. So make sure you grab our case study for this, see how it all works together. And if it's got your wheels turning, then make sure you leave a comment on our show notes page, or send us an email, or leave us a message in one of our Facebook groups. It would be fantastic to hear what your thinking has been as a result of this episode. Well, that's the end of the show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you again next time. How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support, and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today. If you enjoy this show and want to hear more of our work, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening today. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, visit us at topmusic.co/podcast or check out the show notes. I'm Tim Topham. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your week ahead, and I'll catch you next time.